Hey guys, Randy Potato here with a hero guide for the Exemplar. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new content every day. The Exemplar is a mini-boss known as the Gatekeeper of the Candles because he occupies the final Guardian node in the fourth and final region of your run, right before the last inn before the mountain. Defeating the Exemplar will allow you to reach this final inn and retain all of the candles you have earned in your run, allowing you to unlock more items from the Altar of Hope. He also appears if you let your loathing hit max level. This guide will review his skills and the variety of strategies you can use to defeat him. A behemoth with 101 base HP, but will generally be ordained at 141 HP, and a terrifying 75 death blow resistance, this size 3 enemy also boasts solid resistance to dots, stuns, and debuffs. He gets 2 actions per round, and will always spawn in front rank, with an altar in the back. His primary mechanic is self-worship, which he acquires in 2 different ways. If one of your characters is comboed, which the Exemplar can apply himself, he can nuke your hero with the fall and gain a worship. He can also use his turn to self-sacrifice a minion with 2 worship tokens to gain 1 worship for himself. Now, let's go through the Exemplar skills more in depth. Prelude does solid damage, applies a massive 6x3 blight, pulls, and adds a combo token. The follow-up move, the Fall, is a large damage nuke, eats the combo, and gives Exemplar a worship token. Rapturous Beauty hits 2 targets with medium damage, horror, and Vuln application. Pillar of Sacrifice becomes usable when the minion has 2 worship tokens. The Exemplar uses its turn to kill the minion, applies self-regen, 2 riposts, and a worship token. And finally, when the Exemplar gains 2 worship tokens, they unlock their Exaltation, which is a 2-target nuke that also summons a new minion. Before we get into strategy for the Exemplar, we need to review the Altar's skills. The Altar is a high speed, 20 HP, 28 when ordained, minion who always spawns in the back with a block token at the start of the Exemplar fight. They start their turn with a free action, which applies the Altar buff, which changes from act to act. In Act 1, their Altar buff gives Exemplar a chance of gaining stealth. In Act 2, it gives Exemplar a chance at gaining a crit token when attacked. Notably, this includes both non-damaging attacks and attacks that miss. In Act 3, it gives a chance at taunt tokens. The Altar has 2 moves. It can either apply party regen of 3, or it can use Bone Weaving. Bone Weaving again changes depending on the act. In all acts, it gives a block token. In Act 1, it gives another block token. In Act 2, it also gives a strength token, and in Act 3, it will remove blind. The first decision you must make when you start an Exemplar combat is what to do with the Altar. Remember, the Exemplar will sacrifice the Altar on his next turn when the Altar obtains 2 worship tokens. All of Altar's abilities give him self-worship, and because of the Altar's speed, it is likely to have the 2 worship tokens at the start of the second round and will be ready to sacrifice on Exemplar's first turn of round 2. Also, in Act 3, the Exemplar will usually start off with a taunt token in the second round because of the Altar buff. All of this means that if you wish to kill the Altar before it's sacrificed, you must kill it in the first round, which is a tall task because it will likely go before your team, meaning you can't get dot damage on it turn 1, and in addition to its sizable HP, it also spawns with a block token. Basically, the only time you'll ever get the Altar down in the first turn is either with a turn 1 Burning Stars, either with Temptation Trinket or Jester Encore, utilizing all your dots on the Altar at once, or killing on round 2 by utilizing speed tokens, such as the Jester with Solo Finale or Highwayman's Take Aim. Most of the time, it's a waste of resources to even try to kill the minion. You should just use your turn 1 to get set up properly, and dump as much damage on the Exemplar as possible. The biggest mechanic to play around to defeat the Exemplar is his Prelude the Fall combo, which is his other method of obtaining worship. There are a few ways to counter this skill, although sometimes you can't counter it because the Exemplar will get 2 actions in a row. There are 2 things to note with the Fall ability. 1, It will only trigger a worship token if the target it attacks is comboed. You can block this in a number of ways. You can protect a hero who has already been marked with combo, either by defending the hero, like with Man-at-Arms, or by using taunt to force the Exemplar's attention on you. You can also utilize blind tokens on the Exemplar or dodge tokens on yourself, although of course these leave your fate up to coin tosses. Holy Water is a great combat item to equip, as it will erase your combo token, as well as any other negative tokens. The second thing to note with the fall is it's only usable on the front 3 ranks, meaning that if you move a comboed ally to rank 4, they cannot be hit with the fall. This little mechanic can actually set up in numerous ways to basically trivialize the Exemplar's combo. You can set up a tank in rank 4, such as Man-at-Arms, and taunt the Exemplar's prelude, and stop from being pulled forward into the fall range, either with the Immobilized Trophy, Immobilized Tokens, or General Move Resist. This is one use case where Sergeant Hero Path for Man-at-Arms is very, very strong. Alternatively, you could use a Noisemaker combat item to taunt a rank 4 hero if they happen to have generally high move resist, or if you have the Immobilized Trophy. Constantly taunting from rank 4 with an immobile tank will force Exemplar to hit you with prelude after prelude, and never being able to pull you forward for the fall, thereby blocking his strongest attack, Exaltation. However, sometimes the strategy just doesn't work out, and you'll need to deal with what comes next when he does obtain the 2 worship tokens. There are 2 Exaltation scenarios. In scenario 1, he obtains his 2 worship and then gets to exalt immediately. You obviously can't block this, though you should be able to anticipate it coming by analyzing the turn order and seeing that you can't block him from gaining his worship. Scenario 2 is when you can see his exalt coming. Then you need to do whatever you can to blind the Exemplar and get dodge and block tokens on as many heroes as possible. You should also be taunting with your tank to guarantee at least one of the targets will be on your tank. You can't control or anticipate which rows he will target, of course, so just defending your weakest ally is also a good idea. Also, utilize any dot clears you have available if one of your weaker heroes is dotted, since Exaltation is highly likely to send mediocre HP heroes immediately to death's door. Once the Exaltation happens, he will summon another minion. It's RNG which minion he will summon with Exaltation, either the Cherub, Evangelist, Herald, or another altar. A few more notes on Exemplar. His Pillar of Sacrifice move gives him even more regen, block tokens, and 2 riposte. His riposte is very high damage, but you don't have time to stall out, of course, to avoid the riposte. Bellow is obviously a free way to remove his riposte, but otherwise strategic use of blind, dodge, and block are the way to counter Exemplar on the post-sacrifice turns. As for what happens when you finally get through the Exemplar's health pool and absurd death blow resistance, the fight is not over. You still need to kill the minion if it's still alive. Usually this isn't a problem with a team that can beat the Exemplar, just important to remember if you're in bad shape by the end of it. The biggest worry here is if the altar is left alive by itself, because it will self-destruct on its next turn and deal heavy HP and stress damage. The general strategy of blinding, dodging, and block tanking can work to negate this. As for itemization, Holy Water for combo removal and Smoke Bombs for blind on key turns are ideal equips, along of course with your standard healing salves and Spring Water. For team comps and skill selection, this is one fight where rank 4 Man-at-Arms can shine. Man-at-Arms in general is just incredible in this fight, not only being able to tank in rank 4, but also removing riposte, defending fragile heroes, and being able to remove self-combo with upgraded Stand Fast. Other useful abilities that remove combo tokens include the Leper's Reflection, and Jester's upgraded Battle Ballad and Play Out. Of course, Blind is also key in this fight. Blinding Gas is pretty moker as a single, non-damaging blind, but Runaway's Smokescreen and Jester's Fade to Black are fantastic. Overall, Jester is quite powerful in this fight. If I were to compile a team exclusively for the Exemplar, Man-at-Arms, Jester, Plague Doctor, and Hellion would be a top-tier lineup. Overall, the Exemplar is a terrifying fight that usually requires you have enough front-load damage to melt through this mini-boss before he can unload his most powerful attacks. It also requires deft planning to avoid letting the Exemplar get his worship tokens. If you can manage to block him from obtaining the 2 necessary tokens for exaltation, the fight is free. But sometimes RNG can even ruin the best laid plans with his 2 actions per round, and in most Exemplar fights you'll have to improvise at some point to survive. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I post new videos every day.